Hi, everybody. Welcome to Friday's Focus on Finances. My name is Jamie Fleming, and today we're going to talk about time value of money, a simple guide to understanding it fast. So, most people know a dollar today isn't the same as a dollar tomorrow. That's the time value of money. Risk and reward are expecting a dollar risk to earn more than that dollar. The time value of money and risk and return are two core concepts in personal finance. Luckily, each boils down to a pretty simple statement. Risk and return say that if you are to risk a dollar, you expect gains of more than the dollar you get back. For each unit of risk you take on, you expect a slightly higher return. Even though these money concepts are easy to simplify, I want to dig in a bit deeper into each of them. So we're going to look at time value of money. Today's dollar is worth more than tomorrow's because of inflation. This is the side of money that works against you. And then the other side, compound interest, this is the side you can make work for you. Inflation increases over time, which means that each dollar you own today will buy more in the present time than it will in the future. This is why investing is so important. Inflation is reported on an annualized basis. This means that to invest a dollar today, you would have to not only expect to exceed inflation, but also have some wiggle room to account for the uncertainty of your future cash flow. Over time, the stock market beats out inflation. So if you put the same amount of money in savings account and investment account, the money invested would be worth far more than the money sitting in savings account, assuming you're investing in growth-oriented investments, right? Obviously, if you're investing in highly speculative investments, this may not be the case. There's also something called opportunity cost. For every choice made, there are choices sacrificed. The decision to go to college is a simple example of opportunity cost. Choosing to attend school means you're giving up 4 years worth of salary you would have earned at a job and 4 years of work experience, future payment. Of course, you hope that by choosing to go to school, you will make more money over your lifetime than if you don't attend. So it's a gamble, but it's a calculated one that hopefully has a more significant payoff eventually than had you chosen not to go to college. The time value of money varies and involves an opportunity cost. That means if you're putting in $1,000 in a savings account to save for a house, you may be giving up an opportunity to grow that money in an investment account. For example, calculating the time value money will tell you that instead of investing, you should be paying down your 24% APR credit card debt that's costing you hundreds of dollars a month. So you see, you have to look at both sides of the coin. So that leads us into compound interest. What's the point of investing if it won't grow faster than inflation? You'd be better off spending it now when it has a higher value, right? That's where the compound annual interest rate comes to the rescue. A standard bond returns a flat percentage of the face value each year, which is considered simple interest. In this case, if you got a 5% annual interest rate on a $1,000 face value bond, you would get $50 each year. That's not bad, but that's not where the magic lies. When you're looking at investments like stocks, you might expect the annual percentage rate on average to be 5% a year or 7% if you count dividends. If you have a $100 stock that increases by 5% by the end of the year, you would have $105 in that compounding period. By the end of year 2, though, it's grown another 5% and is worth $110.25. The reason for that is that you get the 5% on the current value, which is $105, not your original investment. While that's only an extra 25 cents, in this case, over long periods and with substantial dollar amounts, that could end up being a lot of money. It's possible to compound interest monthly or even daily. This is called continuous compounding. This means that your balance grows by a small amount every instance. So let's look at time value of money calculator. Assuming you have a financial calculator or access to the internet, it's pretty easy to see how much your current cash flow would be worth tomorrow, though you do have to make some assumptions. If you're not a money nerd like me, and you don't have a financial calculator, which I've had for decades, if you don't have one of those sitting next to you, there's plenty of resources available online. A popular one to use in this area is called fncalculator.com. If you've never used one before, here's a step-by-step breakdown of what the terms mean, which is very helpful in this process. Most people look at my calculator and they think, oh my gosh, what the heck do I do? So I break this down. It's pretty easy. So the first thing to consider is PV. This means present value. When you're looking at your calculator or your calculator online, you would enter how much money you have today. If you have $20 in your wallet, enter 20, right? The next area is rate. This is the rate of growth. If you're calculating how much inflation will be, you can use a number like 3%. If you're trying to see what your money will grow to, if you're getting 7% real rate of return, this is after inflation, use 7%. You put in the whole number 7 instead of the actual decimal 0.07. The next area is PMT. This means payment. It's the amount that you're adding to the present value per period that you're calculating. Think of it as a monthly contribution to an IRA, assuming you're doing monthly compounding. The next area is the periods or period of time, the number of times you're compounding your money. It's essential to keep in mind how extended a period is. Are you compounding weekly, monthly, or annually? If you are looking at an annual interest rate and you calculate it on the calculator weekly, then your number is going to come out higher than it actually is. So make sure, however your investment is compounding, that's the period you use in your calculation. The next area is the FVA. This is your future value. If you're trying to calculate what your money will be worth in the future, once you've made payments and had it to compound, you'll see what your answer is using future value. If you're trying to reverse engineer what a future sum of money is worth today with deflation, you start with this number, your future value. And if you want to put your math hat on, the formula to calculate this is pretty simple formula. For future value equals present value multiplied by 1 plus your rate of return, and it's to the nth degree, the number of periods. So easy calculator, easy equation, much easier if you have a financial calculator or access to an online calculator. So using the time value of money formula, why is this important, right? I promise you this is essential. With those variables, you can answer questions like these. How much money would I need to start saving today if I wanted to have $1 million in 20 years, assuming 6% growth after inflation? So you would enter 6% for the rate, nothing in payment, because you're trying to figure that out. You're trying to solve for the payment. Your future value is $1 million. Net present value is 0, right? Because you're trying to figure that out. And the number of periods in years would be 20. If you plug those numbers in, it would spit out the number $2,308 per month. You could also do this for anticipated future costs like weddings, school cost, buying a car, or anything else you want to save for in the future, right? If I start with nothing today and put away $100 a month, what will I have in 10 years if I get a 4% growth after inflation, right? You'd plug those numbers in, and if you did those calculations correctly, you should come up with $14,407, right? This kind of question is great for seeing where you'll be if you start investing today. So these two areas of using the financial calculator or financial formula are important. I go through these kinds of hypotheticals when starting out with new clients to show what they will need and or what they'll have under their specific circumstances. This shows us right away if we're doing enough or if there's a gap between what they want and what they will have in the future. The next area to look at is risk and return. Now that you can calculate the time value of money, it's time to look at risk and return. From example 1, we know that you would need to save a whopping $2,308 per month to get from today $0 to $1 million in 20 years with 6% growth. So if you're like a lot of people, that number seems pretty high, especially if you're just getting started. So we need to look at possibly securing a higher rate of return to drop that amount. even looking at 2% higher return would drop that monthly savings need by $500, right? But what does that mean for you in your investing strategy? You're unlikely to get extra return without taking on extra risk. Investing in a small startup is a bigger risk than investing in a well-established company, but the investment in the startup has the potential for a bigger payoff. It's really essential that you're comfortable with and aware of the amount of risk you're investing in your investment strategy. If you can stomach the lows and the highs that come with extra risk, it can make sense to strive for the extra return and in turn lower your monthly payment value to get to the same goal. So let's look at some time value of money examples in areas like buying a car. I use this example a lot. So let's say you decide to buy a car that cost $18,000. You go to the dealership and they give you two choices. Purchase the car for cash and you'll receive a $2,000 instant cash rebate. This will make your out-of-pocket expense $16,000 today. Or purchase the car for $18,000 with a 0% interest for 36-month loan. But assuming the economy or sector interest is 4%, for example, here. Which is the cheaper option and how much will you save? Well, almost inevitably, most people would say option one. And in this particular case, just using those factors, you would save, using the time value of money, about $935, not the $2,000 that you're probably thinking. A mistake people make is comparing $16,000 to $18,000. If you choose option A, you're paying out $16,000 now. If you choose option B, you're paying monthly installments of $500 a month for 36 months, totaling $18,000. In finance, the key to understand is you need to compare cost always at the same point in time. This is why it's so important to understand the time value of money. It's also important to understand the opportunity cost of investing the $16,000 in a lump sum where you took those funds from. If you were investing the $16,000 you paid for the car, let's say, for example, on average 7% growth, then your $16,000 would actually be worth $19,600 at the end of the same 3-year time period. Now the difference in the car purchase is $1,600, making option B the better option, which is, making the monthly payments at 0% while investing the $16,000 over time. So you see, the numbers matter, and it's helpful in making more efficient money decisions. Now you can really see the geeky nerd side of me coming out, because it really does matter where the source of the funds are coming from, what your time frame is, and really looking at the time value of money. So let's look at investing your money. If I offer you the choice of $1,000 now or $1,000 in 5 years from now, it's a no-brainer, right? You would take the $1,000 now. But what if we changed it up and offer you $1,000 right now or $1,250 5 years from now? If we took the money now and invested it, would we end up with more than $1,250 or less? Say we took the $1,000 now and invested it in the market and made a conservative 5% on this money each year. In 1 year, in the first year, we would earn $50 in interest, which is 5% of 1,000. So our 1,000 would now have grown to 1,050. If we reinvested those gains the next year, we get a little bit more, $5,250, which is 5% of the $1,000 50. Each year, the interest keeps increasing or compounding. And by the end of year 5, we actually have $1,276. So if we know we can get the 5% return, we'd be better off taking the $1,000 now rather than the $1,250 later. Let's look at real estate and leveraging and how that works. In the stock market, use 100% of your money to control 100% of your investment. In real estate, you could potentially only use 20% of your money to control 100% of a property. When you sell that property or generate monthly income on that property, you're making money on the full value of the investment. Your returns are then multiplied. So to understand how leverage works and what it has to do with the time value of money, let's look at the example of two different people who have $100,000 to invest in real estate. Person one bought a $100,000 investment property outright. After taxes, insurance, and property management fees, The property generated a cash flow of $500 a month. At the end of the year, person A will have made $6,000 or 6% on their $100,000 investment, which doesn't seem bad. Person B took the same 100,000, but instead of putting it all in one property, they invested 20,000 into 5 different investment properties. After mortgage payments now, taxes, insurance, and property management fees, the properties generated a cash flow of only $200 per month per house. But at the end of the year, person B will have made $12,000 from all the properties, which is actually a 12% return on the same $100,000 investment. That's double the return. So now, not only is person B making more money than person A, but she also controls $500,000 worth of real estate compared to only $100,000, which means more opportunity for home value appreciation and potentially lower risk since person B is better diversified with 5 different renters. Of course, person B would also need to make sure they had a healthy emergency reserves fund in case something like the unforeseen that we just experienced with the pandemic. When the pandemic occurred, renters were allowed not to pay rent and could not be evicted, and the owners could also not sell the property. In this situation, person B might be taking on more risk. So we just have to look at each individual situation. Why is the time value of money important? These concepts are the basis of every recommendation you see, even if the person making the recommendation isn't explicitly aware of it. It's better to invest early because of the time value of money concept. Each dollar you invest now has a time period to grow. But the reason that it's important to invest the dollar instead of sitting on it is that if it doesn't grow and outpace inflation, you're actually losing purchasing power over time. So if you think about gas prices, movie tickets, and food, all these things used to cost less. And 50,000 salary used to mean a lot more. That fantastic investment that promises a huge return, it comes with increased risk as well, or it would have been snapped up already. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad decision. You just need to understand what you're getting into. You need to take some risk for your money to outpace inflation. So just make sure you're comfortable with the amount of risk you're taking. This is a lot of info, and my Geekies number side definitely came out in full force today. However, because of this, I'm able to help my clients make more efficient money decisions throughout the years that is potentially saving them tens of thousands of dollars. So if you're curious about how these strategies can benefit you, take advantage of our complimentary consultation. We would love to speak with you. And thank you everyone for joining today. I will see you next week on Friday's Focus on Finances. Bye everyone.